You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. Doesn't look like we have any new callers, but we have a lot of callers. So let's get started with Randy from Minnesota.
Hi, Ryan. It's Randy from Minnesota.
What's up?
I've been occupying my time, this dead zone. I'm rewatching Packer games from 2011, 2012 that's been on the NFL Network. And just made me think what I heard the announcers were talking about, how I think it might pertain to Valentine, is how Sam Shields basically came out of nowhere. No one expected anything of him. And during that playoff run that took him to the Super Bowl, you know, he became an item and started out the next year was really good. And that, I don't know, I'm kind of tying that in, probably wishfully, hopefully, maybe through green and gold goggles, thinking this is how it might work for Valentine. I'm really hoping it does, but I thought that was interesting that it seems like the cycle could be repeating itself. And God, I just love how this program, this pod, we go down so many different rabbit holes. Now all of a sudden weather. Well, I'm going to join in. I hate summer. The best part of summer is the last day. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I just got done with a 5-mile walk and I'm drenched, and not because it rained. I'm the guy whose wife gets upset during the winter when we go out. I'm in shorts and a hoodie. And she actually, no, you got to wear pants. I'm like, shit. So that's my feeling. Bring on the cold. Bring on the dark weather. I love it. Anyway, go Pack, go. Bye.
Yeah, so just looking back at Sam Shields, I mean, my first thought was we can't be putting him in Sam Shields' category. However, 2010, Sam Shields' first year, he had a 74 grade, pretty similar to Valentine. The next year, it actually went down quite a bit, down to a 62. Then he had a really good year, 90, then 71, then 60, then 70, and then he played just 62 snaps for the Packers in 2016, didn't play in 2017, played 1 year, about a half a year in L.A., and that was about that. But, yeah, I mean, it's certainly not impossible. It was kind of like good year, but not even bad, but good, average, elite, good, average, good. So he kind of vacillated back and forth between being good and being average with one elite year mixed in. I mean, it's absolutely not impossible for Valentine to have a year like that. Obviously, the hardest part is going to be replicating 2012, which was his one elite year. That's going to be hard for anybody to replicate, but, you know, outside of that, yeah, I don't see why he couldn't be a Sam Shields-esque type of player.
Hey, Ryan, Steve up in Alaska. How's it going, big guy?
Good.
Just figured I'd call in. I was listening to your podcast where, whichever day it was, is the one that I was listening to the day that I made this call. But you were talking about, you made mention of the issues that you were kind of seeing with teams not wanting to pay big veteran players, you know. I think a part of that is that the numbers are just getting outlandish. They're getting crazy. And I think some of the owners are going, hey, we need to rein in some of this. I know everybody says, oh, you guys are, you know, billionaires, you got all the money and leave money, but they got to be billionaires by not wasting their money.
Well, plus it's a salary cap, right? It doesn't matter if they have trillions of dollars. Every dollar you spend on one player is a dollar less for the rest of your players. So yeah, anybody asking for too much money is going to cause you to struggle to sign other people at other positions.
So at some point in time, they got to start thinking, hey, you know.
And to be clear, because maybe this is what you're referring to more so, what really matters are the percentages. What percent of the cap? If you're asking for a higher percentage of the cap than what we generally give to someone in your spot, then you're not going to get it. Now, if what you mean is it's not a cap issue, it's actual dollar issues. I don't know. I assume that the revenue is going up at the same rate. I mean, that's why the cap is going up, is because the revenue is going up. I can't imagine they would elevate the cap beyond what the team is getting. So I wouldn't think that that's an issue, but I don't know.
These specific individuals are eating up so much money that our teams are getting top heavy. They're like the Cowboys.
Yeah.
You know, Jerry Jones, every time he pays a guy, he waits until the absolute last moment when the price is at its absolute highest and pays him, and then wonders why he can't get any, mid-level players that are any good. So I think that's a big part of that. You'd also, I know you probably don't remember, but you had mentioned Gordon Ramsay and how all of his food gets stupid and it's just pretty food that isn't of any real quality. Well, I've worked in some upper class higher dining stuff, and that's all I've ever seen it is. It's tall and it's pretty and it's all this, but it ain't really any good. And so you spend $100 on a plate and it's real pretty. Look at this beautiful piece of artwork that's in front of me. You know what you're going to do? You're going to tear it apart with a fork and a knife and crap it out the next day.
Yeah.
So that's $100 poop is basically what that is sitting in front of you. It's $100 poop. So I always thought that was just ridiculous. There was one other point that I wanted to make. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. I'm just looking forward to seeing how training camp goes. I think we're going to have a solid team. I think there's going to be some options since we do have all this extra money. When players or teams start cutting some of these players out there that are good quality players because they don't want to pay them, that we can go in and pick up one or two good quality players, for different spots that we may need them because we do have the cap space. So, but I'm going to get back to work. I got a busy day ahead of me. I'm sure everybody else out there does too and doesn't need to listen to me ramble anymore. All right, go Pack.
Yeah, I mean, on the food thing, one of the revelations I had that got me to start making a lot of food, the barbecue and all that stuff, but everything else in general, was the realization that these people are not magic. The ingredients they use, with the exception of some really high-end stuff that I probably won't buy, which they don't usually use all that. I mean, maybe caviar or something, but they're not getting Wagyu steaks. They'll use some good prime steaks or something. Same with, pork. If they make a pork chop, I'm sure it's a, nice cut of pork, but it's not going to be anything crazy that you can't buy. And so, yeah, you think, well, be great to have Gordon Ramsay cook for you because he would make it so incredibly well. Maybe there are some things he does that are really, really good. The problem is there's only so good you can make something. And at a certain point, you're not really adding value outside of your name recognition and how pretty you can make stuff. The way he makes mashed potatoes, however that may be, pretty well known at this point. And anybody can find a YouTube video and make it the exact same way. Steak. He's got, there's a billion videos of him making steak. A couple things. First of all, there's only so good of a job you can do with a steak. Second of all, there are people that do steak competitions that I have a feeling would whoop the crap out of any steak you can get from Gordon Ramsay because they do this as a specialty. It's what they do. They make steaks. They perfect how to choose and cook perfectly steaks. So if you go get a steak from Gordon Ramsay, it's going to be good. But the idea that it's going to be this once-in-a-lifetime experience and you're never going to have a steak that good again is just not true. You can make a steak that good at home. In fact, probably better because he likes to cook stuff in ovens as opposed to out on a grill, and that's just never going to be able to compete. I'm sorry. So rather than saving up your pennies to go to some fancy restaurant, why don't you learn how to make it? And granted, some of the stuff might take some practice. I mean, you can watch a YouTube video on how to make a steak, and your first time you end up messing it up anyways. Make some really good spaghetti, Learn how to make homemade pasta. You know how cheap that is? I've still never done that, but I need to do that. It's the cheapest thing. If you mess that up, you can throw a counter full of ingredients in the garbage. It probably cost you like 38 cents. And then, yeah, on top of that, the portions are small. Half the ingredients are not good. I don't even think, it's all about balance and all that. No, it's about you like pretty colors, and that's stupid because I don't care. I like the crunch and the contrast and all these random things. That just seems like they made up some kind of a game with these rules that you have to follow. And if you do it the best, then you did a good job. But it's like, it doesn't taste good, though. It's kind of like competition barbecue. If you go on YouTube, there's a lot of people will tell you how they make stuff for competition. Do not make that at home. I mean, you can try it, but they'll tell you that's not that. They do that for competition. Number one, that's just a set of rules that they made up. Number two, they make it for like one bite, so it's way overpowering with the flavor and all this other stuff because they want that judge to take that one bite and have it really stand out. So yeah, if you're trying to impress Gordon Ramsay as a judge, you do all this weird stuff, like a little bit of crunch here and a little bit of the acidity here, and oh, shut up! It tastes like garbage. Like, you checked all the boxes, but this is a pile of crap. Doesn't it look beautiful? I don't know. It looks green and red and, you know, different colors, but I don't. Good? I don't know. I don't even know what that means.
Hey Ryan, it's Drew from Green Bay.
Yo.
About the trading for TJ Watt thing, I think it would make a lot of sense for the Packers, but I'm not sure it would make a whole lot of sense for the Steelers. Like, they've been making a lot of moves for
Right.
Aaron Rodgers and boosting, you know, the win now scenario. So then why would you take your best pass rusher and get rid of him? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you trade away an asset today for future assets, which doesn't make sense because we just got rid of a bunch of future assets for some now assets to win now. What are we even talking about?
I mean, they have all kinds of money to pay him, and next year they're going to have even more. So they don't need to cut him or trade him at all.
Yeah.
If they traded him, it would be about like gaining draft picks for the future or something. But again, I don't really. I see them in win now mode. And I thought it was interesting that their GM just got a 3-year extension. So he's comfortable. I think that allows him to do a 1-year win now.
Sure.
And then break it all up next year. And, you know, Aaron Rodgers, he's already said it's like he's got 1 more year left in him and he's pretty much done. That could change, but I kind of believe it. I mean, he's been barely hanging on for a while, so I think this is actually his last year. So next year there are going to be a lot of quarterbacks, so the Steelers can, if things don't go well, they can go for a quarterback next year. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Packers would benefit more than other teams like the Lions, and we could make it work, but I just don't see the Steelers getting rid of him. And obviously, TJ Watt has a lot of connections to Wisconsin. I think that helps us, so if he does go somewhere, it's probably Green Bay, in my opinion, but those are my thoughts. Anyways, have a good day. Bye.
Yeah, TJ Watt's not going to be a Packer, so we can just put that to bed. There is always a chance, but it's such a small chance. It's just not. It's and everything you just said is absolutely. I mean, not that teams haven't been known to do some stupid stuff, but what actually would be the frickin' point of that? Stupid. All right, why don't we take our first break? We'll come back and hear from Daniel from California.
Hey Ryan, Daniel from California.
Yo.
I'm looking at this coming off season next year and just had a realization that this is the final year of the first contract that shows the details of the Devonte Adams trade. When you look at everything and how that all played out, we got Quay Walker and Christian Watson out of that trade. And the Raiders, they went on, didn't do anything. I don't know. I just think that trade is kind of a 50-50 trade. They got one good season out of that. We got a couple seasons out of those guys I'd probably rather have over the last few years if he wasn't hopping around teams or the contract value. I don't know. I'd probably want Devonte Adams. But just how everything unfolded, I don't know. But that's the first thing. Second thing is, I believe Edrin Cooper is a part of the Aaron Rodgers trade. I could be wrong, and Lucas Van Ness is. So they're not at the end of their contract, but we get to see what that looks like too and how all that plays out. But just this roster has been built by an influx of rookies because of a couple trades that built this roster. So we're at the peak of that first trade now. All right, well, we have this extra depth because we made these trades. We turned this number of players into that number of players, right? I am excited just to see because I have high expectations. I think this team is going to be better than we all expect just because of the simple fact that there's depth everywhere. And, yeah, we might not have elite corner play, but I think we have 3 solid corners, and then we have 2 guys beyond those 3 that have the potential to show that they could be decent as well. I think that our edge rush isn't as bad as we think. I think we got a good coach that actually knows what to do because when we had Mike Smith, we looked great with Rashawn. Rashawn was on his way, and then we let Rebrovich, who's just a pass rush specialist guy, but I don't know, he's just more of a rah-rah guy. I don't know if he just doesn't have the detail, but I think we have the depth everywhere. Our O-line is crazy. Our receivers has a lot of depth. Maybe not high-end talent, but we have depth. So this is our peak. I'm excited. I think that this might be a 13-win season. That's just me. Let me know what you think. Go Pack, go.
Well, yeah, Quay and Christian Watson was what we ended up getting for Devonte. There's a lot that goes into that stuff. There's, number one, again, we did try to bring him back, but he didn't want to come. So it wasn't really up to us to make that decision. Number two, there's also the financial aspect of that. What happened to the money that would have gone to Devonte? Are there free agents that also got picked up as a result of that we wouldn't have had it not been for the free up in money? And then there's also the factor of moving forward, right? How long would we have had Devonte? What would that contract have been? How long would he have been here? Remember, he went to the Raiders. He was there for what, 2 years? Then he went to the Jets to go be with Rodgers, which maybe he would have done that. Maybe not. I don't know. Currently in L.A., so he's been with 3 teams since he left here, so I don't know how long he would have been here. Would he still be here, and how much longer will he be here? So looking into the future, it's hard to say. There's a world in which he'd still be a Green Bay Packer today. There's also a world in which he isn't, and, Quay Walker and Christian Watson are here for a long time, so that's, the lost value of those years moving forward. But yeah, I don't know. I generally would prefer to, it's always better to keep Devonte at the time. Looking this far ahead into the future, no, I'd rather trade at this point, obviously. And that's kind of where I usually fall on the trade away for the younger people team more often than not, because if it only is the right choice for the first couple years and then for every year after that it was a stupid choice, well, then it's a stupid choice. But yeah, there's no reason not to be optimistic about this team, really. You never know how things are going to pan out, but everything is in place. It's just a matter of execution and health. And we're just going to have to wait and see how that goes.
Ryan, Fat Albert calling.
What's
Been
up?
a while since I've called in. Thanks for keeping the torch burning in the off season. I was thinking about, and actually just a question for you. I was thinking about, this year's team, our chances, and was curious, based on some of the prior Super Bowl teams, their PFF grades for the Pack, how we compared. You might have it just kind of in terms of overall offense, overall defense, that type of stuff. I know that obviously there's a lot of luck involved, but I'm just curious as to where last year's Packer team stood against those. The other angle, which was kind of interesting, I thought, was the fact that Rodgers ends up in Pittsburgh, right? And obviously, last time we won one was against Pittsburgh. It wouldn't the irony. I know you're a student of irony, just as I am. Wouldn't the irony be wonderful if we won one, and all the powers that be and the luck gods and all that kind of thing smile down? So the irony is too good to pass up for us to win one when Rodgers in Pittsburgh and our last one was won in Pittsburgh. So just curious to your thoughts. Thanks, man. See you, bye.
Well, I mean, I would be in favor of it. Obviously, again, assuming things fall the correct direction. Kind of said the same thing about the Jets, although the Steelers, obviously, for the last Super Bowl connection, would end up being a little bit better. I don't know that there could be a much better scenario. Again, if we're just talking about at the end, how would you like the season to have gone? Yes, Packers, Steelers, Super Bowl, Packers win the Super Bowl would be the best case scenario. The absolute panic that I would have leading up to that wouldn't be super enjoyable, but it would be worth it 100%. As for the PFF grades, the Packers had an 84. I was going to say that seems high. The Packers had an 83.7 PFF grade. The Eagles had a 94 this past year. Year before that, I'm assuming, was the Chiefs, 88.4. Year before that, again, I don't know. I'm just going to assume it's the Chiefs, 93. Year before that, I'm going to guess was the Rams, 94.5. 2020 Packers were actually the highest graded team, of course. Should have won the freaking Super Bowl that year. Second highest team did win the Super Bowl that year. It's annoying.
Hey, it's Mel from Brookfield.
Yo.
Again, calling back one more time about the wings. So I heard you miss the first place, and that place is called Points East.
Okay.
Points East in Brookfield. So in Milwaukee. So that's the one that everybody says is kind of the number one. Okay, and then with regards to the grilling and the frying, I understand the frying is super annoying. And if you don't have a fryer, you can fry directly on your grill, on your Weber grill.
That's true.
If you have a cast iron skillet, you can use that. So you want to use peanut oil. It's kind of expensive, but it is the best thing to fry your wings in. So the point of the frying part of it is you are frying them kind of till they're done. So like it's, 7, 8, 10 minutes or something like that. And then you're going to take them out, and then you're going to sauce them, and then you're going to put them on the grill. And the point of the grill is to get the char. So they're already crispy. You're just trying to caramelize that sauce and get kind of some of the crispy bits and crispy corners and edges and get some grill marks on them. So go to Points East or go to Bogey's in Brookfield and get them fried and grilled, or even Tompkins and get them fried and grilled. And then you'll understand that process and what that does. So
All right.
Points East and Club Garibaldi, the wings are a little drier. They're all that fat and all of like the boingy stuff we used to call it. That stuff's all completely rendered out. So that's why they're just so freaking delicious. So that's the way to do it. Also, if you want an idea of some of the stuff that I used to do, go check out on YouTube the awingthing.com. We have some videos up there. I did a video of Summerfest back in the day. I got media credentials. They go film that. But we did some stuff at Quaker Steak, and I used to do some wing challenges here and there, some super hot ones. And no, I'm too old for that now. But I do still prefer a wing with some heat. But
Sure.
yeah, thanks again. Go Pack-O.
All right, I got it. Awingthing.com. Milwaukee, a wing thing. By the way, I love this. Not only do you have a passion for something like wings, which is dope, but it's like, I'm going to go all in with this. I got, website, YouTube, media credentials, travel the state, do it. That's it right there. It's funny, I just grabbed one of your videos here. It's from Wingfest Milwaukee 2014. I can see what you're talking. I mean, it's just the intro, but I see people doing it. They got it fried, then they put it in their bowl, sauce it up real good, and then they just plop it on the grill and grill it up. And I do semi-understand what you're talking about with that last process. It seems weird to me, because it's like, man, I hate to sound lazy, but it's a lot of work to fire up my grill here. I guess it's not a ton if you're just getting it rip-roaring for whatever. You just throw it in the chimney or whatnot. But it's like, I'm gonna do that just to, like, put wings on for, like a minute or two? But I do somewhat get it, because that's what I do with chicken thighs. I cook them the whole time on the grill, but it's kind of on-off the hot flame with the intention of being, you cook it all the way through, but also it's got the little burnt edges and the burnt, so I call it burnt butt chicken. It's not it's the censored version. But it was Malcolm Reed that turned me on to that, and that was his name for it. But it's like, yeah, just cook it, get the little charred edges on there and whatnot. Oh, it's so good. You got and then with the barbecue, it's the same thing. Right at the end, you sauce them up, you put them back on, to kind of caramelize the sauce a little bit, get a little smoke inside the flavor, inside the sauce. It's a pretty high quality video too. It's kind of sad you're not doing this anymore. You should just get back out there, man. And just a couple minutes in, he's making fun of Bears fans. It's you got to fire up the channel again, man. All right. It's kind of like when you find a good show on Netflix, and then you find out they made it like 4 episodes and then canceled it. Like, what the heck? Or you watch a season or something, and you're like, oh, I wonder if there's going to be a new season. You realize, no, this was 6 years ago. There's no more seasons coming. In this case, what, 10 years ago? 10 years ago? But all right, let's take a break. We got a couple from Kyle and then a couple from Nico after that.
Hey, part 2 here. So,
part 2. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, we got three from Kyle. I was like, what? You can't do that.
Ryan, Kyle from Madison.
What's
Man,
up?
how are you? Hope you're having a great summer.
Going
Just
good.
listen to After Dark. You and Omar having a nice dialogue, and I think you just said something really important. You're talking about, having your eyes wide open when it comes to the season and expectations, but you mentioned how you don't ever want to get to the point where, you're taking the playoff entry for granted. You don't believe we've got a chance until what? Maybe the NFC Championship game. And, what a miserable existence that would be, because you get robbed from the joy of the possibilities. And I think you are 1,000% right there. And I think about this often because one of the greatest things about being a Packers fan for the last 30 years, or, since they actually did it that first time, when I was a kid and Favre and Reggie White, when they finally got that trophy back, up until that point you wanted to believe, but, it was the Packers. They couldn't win a Super Bowl again, could they? And once they did, it has been almost every year. I mean, not every year, but almost every year where not rose-colored glasses, Kyle, the Packer fan, like a logical, regular person, Packer fan, could watch these teams and make a honest case at some point in the season for why they might actually be able to do it.
Right.
Despite even they didn't have to have the best roster or whatever it is. It's not delusional, but for definitely more years than not. I mean, way more years than not. There were these lines of demarcation in the season where it's like all of a sudden, even if you had some concerns or whatever in the off season, it was like, holy crap, we actually might do this.
Yeah.
And it's been one of the great joys of my life over that period of time. It's just that so many times throughout the year, they would get me there emotionally, logically, kind of where the head and the heart align for something that I could actually believe without having to resort to being a Bears fan and living in fantasy world. Like there was actual evidence that it could happen.
Yeah.
And so this year I started out cautious. I don't see it on paper, but I also recognize, like what you said about the Eagles. They weren't looking great to end the year. Then they started okay, terrible. And then they heated up. Do I think it's our year? Probably not, no. But do I think it's possible they're going to convince me it is their year at some point? It is possible, yes. It is possible they're going to do it again. And that is really a gift. That's about all you can ask for in the NFL. There's no guarantees, but if you're in it, man, if you're in it with your heart, I mean, that's the gold. That's the stuff. So if they can get me there and get a...
And the only thing I'll reiterate before we get into part 2 that I mentioned the last time is this might not be our year. It probably isn't. Not because they're bad necessarily, but just, again, nobody has a better than 50% chance. And they don't have the best among the teams that have a less than 50% chance, right? So it's of course it's low. It's low every year. But if the Packers can continue their reign of success, let's say that they are roughly as successful as they were with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, it is very likely that at some point they'll win at least one Super Bowl. And if we allow ourselves to become jaded because, well, every year we're good, but then we never actually do it, then that's the attitude. It's going to sneak up on you, and you're not going to enjoy the season as much as you could. So allow yourself to be a kid a little bit. Allow yourself to just sit there and say, yeah, but what if, dude? Because you don't want to be the person who didn't believe in the offseason, didn't believe in the regular season. They go 2-0, you were miserable about it. Then they lose their, in week 3, and it's like, see, and you play that stupid game all the way through the season. They made the playoffs, but it's not going to matter. They won a wild card game. So what? They always win wild card games. Oh, big deal. Let's see what they can, they won again, big deal. Let's see what they can actually do in the NFC Championship. That's the one that matters. And then when they actually win that game, then you get on board in the Super Bowl, and you're probably still halfway skeptical, like, well, I mean, the other team is definitely the better team, but I mean, who knows, man? You don't want to turn the corner then. You don't want to look back on a season that is going to be one of the greatest you've ever experienced. Assuming Super Bowls are the greatest season you've experienced, most of us have experienced that twice. We'll maybe get that one more time in our lifetime. Don't crap on the team the year they're about to win that Super Bowl. Be a part of the victory. Don't be like a Bears fan crapping on them the entire season, and then at the last second when they hoist the trophy, you go, yay, we finally did it. No, not we. Not we. You haven't been a part of this. You've been saying these people that just brought a Lombardi trophy back to Green Bay are not good enough, are not worthy, shouldn't be here, everybody should be fired. That's your contribution to this season. Don't be that person. Because guess what? Next year and the year after that and the year after that and the year after that and for the rest of your life until you die, you can only remember back on that season as, it was great we won, although I was a miserable, insufferable douchebag that hated the team. Until the last final game when I decided to get on board. It's not worth it just so you can say, I told you so, if they don't make it to the Super Bowl again. It's not going to be worth it, because at the end, when it actually matters, when the Super Bowl actually happens, that's when the pain actually comes for yours. You win all the time, right? Negative fans always win. Doesn't matter the team, because unless you win a Super Bowl, negative fans win. So you win all the time, but you lose the ultimate war. When your team wins a Super Bowl and you're on the wrong side. What's been the point? Don't be over there. It doesn't matter that it's a small chance, whether it's 3%, 5% chance. So what? That's what being a fan of a team is about. They're not perfect. They could be better. Jordan isn't Rodgers, and he's not Brett Favre. And Golden is probably not Devonte. And our offensive line isn't the greatest. It's a good offensive line, but it's not the greatest we've had in the last 10 years, 20 years. And our defense, we've had a couple better defenses, including the year we won the Super Bowl, maybe, probably. So what? Different teams have different strengths and different weaknesses. One of the worst parts about the last Super Bowl that we had is that I jumped ship on the team like one game before their turnaround. I was in it. I believed. And then I said, you know what? It's over. And what happened? They turned it around. They needed certain things to be exactly perfect. They had to win the next couple games, and they had to have other teams lose their games, and that's exactly what happened. And then I kind of got back on board, but it's like there's just no way. And then by the time the Super Bowl came around, I was 100% sure we were going to win because we overcame so much to get there. And again, that was just a tiny window. Right? I was all in on that, and most of us hadn't even really become jaded at that point. Maybe a little bit because we go to the playoffs every year or whatever. I feel like we started getting jaded more toward the late 20-teens, 2016 was a really good year, and then 17 you got like the injury, I think, and then 18 things started to get ugly. People start getting fired. Then there's a little resurgence when Matt LaFleur gets back, but we're also fighting with each other because, we draft Jordan, and it's just all this stuff going on, and it's like, oh, but we got to the play, yeah, and we lost. And it's just like we just got to the point where it's like, enough is enough. You're probably hearing that. How do I turn this off? Alexa, go home. Kids rang the doorbell, and so the front door thing is here. Dude, Alexa! She is the worst. Especially now with like the advent of AI, where there's things that are responsive and smart and intelligent and can give you information. This person over here is a joke. Amazon needs to step it up. I heard a long time ago they were going to, I can't say her name, but they were going to update this with more AI type stuff. I don't know what the status is on that, but they need to up it. They need to hurry it up. I'm tired of this senile old woman. What was I talking about? Oh, that's right. 2020. I feel like that was not, a lot of us had gotten jaded at that point already. That was kind of a breaking point. That was for me and I think a lot of other people. If we can't win with the 2020 team, we can't do it. Something is broken, and I don't know what it is. And wherever it was for you that you kind of broke and started to become a pessimist, and we're all, I think, there at this point, one way or another. I think we have to overcome that, and we have to look long term, and we got to recognize that you're right, it's probably not this year, but also it's going to happen at some point, and you're not going to know when it's going to happen. So be ready for it, and be a fan, and be a supporter of the team. Be able to look back and say, I supported the team that I root for when we won the Super Bowl. It's the bare minimum that any fan should be able to say. All right, part 2.
Hey, part 2 here. So that's kind of point number 1. And so the question is, well, how much can we believe in this team this year? Like, is this just hopium? Which, of course, the NFL is built on hope. Right?
That's all it is for everybody.
Or is there logically a glide path for this team? And
I just to interrupt for a second, there has to be some level of hopium here. Because, again, if we're just analytical, which, the negative fans will lean on that, but at the same time, they're analytical and also just negative to begin with. It's a defense mechanism. We've been over this. But in order to enjoy your fandom, there has to be hopium. Because the odds are never in your favor. The odds of winning 11 games are not in your favor. The odds of going to the playoffs probably in the Packers' favor, but winning a game of the playoffs, like from this point, what are the odds the Packers win a playoff game? Probably sub 50%. Win multiple playoff games, win a Super Bowl. I mean, heck, their odds of winning week 1 are like 50%. That's just week 1. So, yeah, you either have to be to some degree that positive fan that's just all rosy, or just don't worry about it. And they are all jacked up. Just don't worry. Just week to week. Week 1. Who is our opponent? Go, Pack, go. Well, we only have a 47% chance. We're the underdogs because we're not as good. Bro, if you can't get up for that, we're, 3-point underdog? I'm not saying we actually are, but in any given game, what are we? Maybe 3-point dogs at the worst? If you can't get behind them and say, nah, we got this. I mean, that's light work for a fan. You know what I mean? Now, again, there's different things. There is the honest analytical conversation of, I would say it's not in our favor, and I would agree that we're underdogs and all that stuff. But to take it to such a negative place of we're not going to win this game, that's dumb. So you can analytically look at something on one hand and say, okay, these are the actual odds, and that's fine and that's great. But it's also not fun. It's interesting. I think it's important. But game day, we got to get excited for the team. And again, some of those underdog games are the best ones. That's how we won the Super Bowl as underdogs. The whole thing was, yeah, but what if? That's what made that whole run to the Super Bowl exciting. We probably can't, but what if we did? What if we did win out the rest of the year? And what if the other things that need to fall into place do fall into place, like the Giants losing or some weird random thing? What if we did beat the Eagles and then continue on? What if we beat the Falcons at home? What if we won in the NFC Championship game against the Bears in Chicago and actually win? What if? I know it's unlikely, but what if? I remember saying that before. There are years where the Packers, very rare, but there are years when the Packers are a bad team. It happens. It happens. We didn't need to fire everybody. We didn't need to freak out. It was a bad year. And in that year, the exciting thing about being a fan of that team is you get to say, what if? There's very low pressure. Nobody expects anything of you. So you get to walk into the game and say, yeah, but what if, dude? What if we could actually pull it off? Like, last year when 2 years ago, Packers were, in 2023, they were a 3-6 football team going up against the Chargers, the Lions, and then the Chiefs. There's nothing rational about saying the Packers are going to be 3-0 in that stretch. When you're 3-6 going up against 3 playoff teams, there is nothing rational about saying we're going to go 3-0. Guess what happened? We went 3-0. And you enjoyed it a lot more if you allowed yourself to say, what if? Dude, what if we do beat the Chargers? And we did, 23-20. What if we do actually beat the Lions, 29-22? What if we actually beat Pat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, 27-19? Then the wheels fell off, right? We lose to the Giants. We lose to the Bucs. How embarrassing. We barely beat the Carolina Panthers. We're garbage. We're going up against the Vikings in Minnesota. We're not going to win this game. But what if we do? 33-10. What if we do? Remember going into Dallas? And all the negative fans can pretend all they want. Oh, everybody knows we beat the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. Everybody knows. Stop it. You didn't believe. Nobody believed. Especially that we were going to score 48 points in that game. Packers were not supposed to win that game. Dallas had already overlooked us. They were looking ahead to next week. All the fans, they couldn't wait. They were so excited to go to that game because they knew they were finally going to get to watch Dallas in Dallas win a playoff game, especially against the Packers. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. You get what I'm saying? Allow yourself to enjoy that stuff.
I don't know. Is there a path? Yeah, there is. People are going to have to play. The quarterback's going to have to be elite. Receivers are going to have to catch the ball, and the defense is going to have to continue making steps forward, especially, some of the younger guys like Van Ness. They're going to have to take that next step. If he becomes suddenly the guy, yeah, now you're cooking with gas. But I just think about, with injuries last year, you want to make excuses, but there's a difference between reasons and excuses, right?
Sure.
Stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. And certainly, I don't know if it's really up for debate. In my mind, Love's injury affected him throughout the year. We're going to see. I hope that's really like to
Pause
see
the
him.
Wrong one again. Sorry. Come on.
If he can take.
I talk a lot about that tomorrow. We talked about it, obviously, today, this morning. But tomorrow's podcast, we're going to go even more in depth on his not just injury, but injuries, multiple, and how he looked injured and not injured. Doing kind of a deep dive into that.
That next step this year, we got it's a whole nother, ball game conceptually about what the team can do. If Golden integrates and is a stud, or at least shows he's in an upward climb as far as what he can do, that's going to be a big deal. But I look back at the team that beat the Cowboys, and believing that you can do it is just something that just should not be underestimated. We saw that with the 2011 Packers. That was a very dangerous team, and a lot of that danger was because they believed they could do it.
Mm-hmm.
The air of inevitability is just a lethal thing to your opponent when you start feeling it. And I think this last year, they had it at times maybe, but then it just kind of faded away. And I don't think, when they lost Watson and just the way things were going, I don't know that team believed in the end. And still, they fought their way, in that Philly game. It was ugly, but a couple things go differently, and that's a different ball game. Even with all the issues, and even with the injuries, and even with the drops, and even with just bad throws, bad reads. So, I don't know. Do we think the team that beat the Cowboys a couple years ago, is this team better than that team? I think it is. But that team had a realistic shot at the Super Bowl. If they get past the Niners there, everybody they play, the Lions and then the Chiefs, we'd beat them both at least once already that season, you know. And this is a better roster. So,
Part 3 here.
Hey, final point here. Somebody mentioned on the call about Antonio Winfield's son playing for the men's national team, and that got my attention. I was watching some of the tournaments, and it just blows my mind, man. This maybe blows my mind more than a lot of things lately. When there is a lineage like this in such high level athletics,
right?
Obviously, Shedeur Sanders. Well, we'll see what he does in the pros, but just him being drafted, I think, is amazing.
Yeah.
Certainly, I don't know what is the most famous. Probably Archie Manning, right? And then obviously what his kids have done.
Yeah, Manning and the Matthewses are also really impressive. Him, his cousins, his brother, his uncles, his dad, his grandpa.
And will continue to do, probably, that bloodline. There's a lot of examples. I know, you're getting older watching football when you get the unique experience of being terrorized by one player and then their kid terrorizes you later. I'm thinking of Antoine Winfield.
Mm-hmm.
What a great player. What a pain in the ass when he played for the Vikings. And then I get to get terrorized by his kid playing for the Buccaneers, It's man, come on.
Yeah.
But it does blow my mind even more, honestly, when it's a different sport. It just, I don't know. For some reason, I can rationalize it in my mind if their kid ends up being good at football and they play football. But like,
yeah, I mean, it makes sense because you figure somebody that is one of the greatest football players in the history of the world is teaching you to play football. But if you transition from that to soccer, that's, I mean, yeah, you still have an athletic parent, and I'm sure they're going to put you in some great programs and great schools and all that stuff and get you trainers. And so you've got a leg up. But it's still impressive because you have to just be so uniquely gifted that the point is, it doesn't matter the sport. You're just such a good athlete because of the genes you got from your parents that you probably could have done this in football. You could have done this in soccer. Not today because, you would have needed to train when you were younger, but you could have gone into baseball. Whatever you started as a kid, you probably would have been a professional athlete by the time you became an adult.
If your kid is, even in Freeman's case, like, all right, you're a top 22 roster guy on a national team. That's elite.
Mm-hmm.
I think of Dennis Rodman's daughter, Trinity Rodman, is a star for the U.S. women's national soccer team. Not just like a roster person. She is like a cold-blooded killer attack soccer player. Like, she is amazing. Like, one of the best female athletes in the world. Like, it just doesn't compute to me. I don't know if it's just genetics or expectation or like a
combination,
like a behavioral, like a mindset in the house, or I don't know, man. How do you like even compute that in your brain? Is it just elite genetics, or what is going on with these people? Because the chances of this are just unbelievable. But really cool, and kudos to all of them. A lot of proud parents out there. So have a good one, buddy.
One of the things that I've learned that I need to try to impart to my kids is it doesn't take a lot of work to get to be in like the top 5% of any one thing. Most people have no ability to do anything or more than like one thing. If you were to go to a boxing gym and you went there for 6 months, let's call it a year, you are probably a better stand-up fighter than 95% of the world. Now, to get into that top 1% of 1% where the professionals are, that's a whole new arena, right? And that's where the professional athletes are. That's where all that stuff is. But to get in the top 5% of a category is not that hard, depending on what it is. It's just a matter of apply yourself consistently. And that's kind of a cool and motivating thing in and of itself. I mean, I don't know where I am in terms of barbecue, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm in the top 5%. Not because I'm just this great whatever, but because I've put a lot of work into something that some people, they couldn't even start a grill. They don't know how to light charcoal aside from like dousing it in lighter fluid. They don't know what to do with the meat. They don't know any of that because they've never tried. Not because they're stupid. It's just a matter of if you can just put in the work and apply yourself, that's a big part of it. So yeah, all of these people, they come from places with expectations, educationally, physically, whatever. There's also belief. Your parent was in the top 1% of 1% when in the pros. So there's a belief that you can actually do it. And the rather than dad just telling you, you can be one of the greats if you just, that whole, you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it, which is not really true. But to a small degree, it kind of is, depending on how high you set your sights. Again, to get into the top of a category, apply yourself to any one thing for a year, and congratulations, you are in the top percentile. Doesn't mean you're successful, but do that. I mean, start a YouTube channel. You're not going to be rich off the YouTube channel for a year, but then go around and ask people if they've ever done YouTube, how much YouTube they've done, how much experience they have, how many videos they have up, how many hours of editing they've done. You'll be really hard-pressed to find anyone that's put in the work you have because you are in the top 5%, probably more than that. You go to 100 people, you think there's 5 people that have done more than you? I doubt it. So yeah, they have that mentality. They work very hard from a young age. And, so again, to get into the top 5% or even the top 1%, especially when you start as a child, is not going to be hard. You take your kid and you dedicate them to something, gymnastics, soccer, football, baseball, they're going to be in the top 1%. But there's going to be a limit at some point. There's just things you can't do, the coordination, the whatever. And that's, I think, where maybe the genetics kind of push you over the edge a little bit. But I don't think it's a surprise, when we go through the draft guides and all that stuff, the Beast draft guide, what do you see every single time? Almost every single one of these people that are professional football players. Occasionally, they have a dad or an uncle or somebody that played in the pros. In fact, it's more than occasionally. It's a relatively high rate. But you know what's like almost every single one with the exception of like one random dude maybe per year? They started playing sports at about 4 or 5 years old. They've been dedicated to it. Their parents moved them from this school to a better, more well-known school. It's dedication and hard work. I think we give a lot to genetics, which in some ways, you know, especially when you look at some of these physical freaks, but some of these guys are not necessarily, like Clay Matthews, I don't know how big he is. He's muscular. Yeah, that's weight room work. But as far as like his bone structure, I don't know that he's in the top 1% of 1% of that. He might have some, you know, twitch and all this other stuff that other people don't have, but the ability to gain muscle. But I think a lot of it is athletes just have a certain mentality and they give that to their kids, a work ethic. And, you know, again, these kids have dedicated their life to this craft and more. I mean, how many of them, not only did they start playing football at 4 and 5 years old, they also were in track. Almost every single football player was in track. Some of them did hockey or basketball or baseball, usually multi-sport athletes. You can have all the genetics you want. If you're playing video games until you're 18, you're not going to the pros. If Clay Matthews is drinking beer and smoking weed and you know, trying to play bass guitar for a garage band, he wouldn't be in the pros. So, yeah, I do think it's a combination. But even when you listen, you know, the St. Brown podcast, it was kind of a big hubbub because Amon-Ra and Equanimous were talking about their dad and asking, you know, like how people will ask, like, how do you do it? And I think he was a big power lifter. So he's a real hard-working guy, put in bodybuilders. If you ever watch like documentaries on how hard these guys work, it's unbelievable. You know, people who feel bad for football players, like, oh, they need a break and they need it. Bro, go watch Kai Green. He's got a YouTube video out there and the stuff that he does. Guys living in motels, eating the same meal every single day, eating so much food. It's like, it's pain. These guys hate eating because they have to eat so much and the food isn't even good. Because most of the time they don't even season their food, especially when they're cutting. You can't put salt on stuff if you're cutting. It is just constant, nonstop torture. So that's their dad. And then he was talking, and it was kind of, I don't know if it was a real controversy or not. Some people maybe got upset about it or whatever, but they were asking about, you know, when he thought about having kids, he thought about breeding. He thought about, I need to find someone that's going to help me produce athletes. And the other joke was he got with a white woman, and so it sort of hindered that ability. Like, you can cut it once, but you can't cut it beyond that. First of all, that's funny. Second of all, probably partly true, for just being honest. So I don't really care. I'm not offended by it. But I think the main point in this whole thing that kind of got lost in it is this is the mentality of a guy who's going to have two kids in the NFL. When he thinks about who to be with, he's thinking about, how do I raise monsters? How do I raise absolute beasts? Genetics, sure, probably. I mean, go look at Amon-Ra. Tell me genetically what that guy has going for him. What is he, 5'10", 5'8"? I mean, he's a tiny dude. Again, he spends a lot of time in the weight room, so I'm sure he's jacked and he's cut and all that stuff, but that's just hard work, man. Look at Christian McCaffrey. The McCaffreys, by the way, he's got a brother in there. I think their dad, insane, psycho, hardworking people. So, genetics, yes, it probably helps, but I think the culture of the family has more to do with it. So the lesson is, don't give yourself that excuse. I can't do it because I don't have the genetics. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But I tell you what, if you go play basketball every day, even at our old age, you're going to be a good basketball player. Go join a semi-pro football league. Dedicate yourself to football. In the off-season, go train for football stuff. You're going to be a good football player. Not professional NFL level, but better than just about anyone else, so that if there's a pickup game of football, you're going to go out there and there's a good chance you'll be one of the best ones out on the field because this is your craft. Most people are bad at everything. It's not hard to be one of the best in any given category. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I was going to move on to Nico, but I think we're going to call it. You guys have a good rest of your day. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.